Reading with your kids.
Hola, niho, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni moli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so honored that you are joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. And please tell all your family and friends about the show. Our guest today is Evelyn Otulola Logan. She is here to celebrate her debut picture book, The Streets of Ondo. Before we invite Evelyn into the studio, we want to invite all the authors listening to the show to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Please click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how we can help you tell the world about your fantastic children's book. You can learn how you can be a guest here on the podcast. And in a long-form conversation, tell the world all about your great book, your inspiration. Tell them all about you. It really is fun. It really is easy. And it doesn't cost you a thing. You can also find out how you can submit your book to our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read panel. If they believe that your book is worthy of 4 or 5 out of 5 stars, it becomes a Certified Great Read. And that is a great way to let parents know that your book is worthy of their consideration. You can also find out about our monthly promotion program. We can celebrate your book with commercials here on the podcast, with messages to our 97,000 plus social media followers. Display your book on our nationwide network of digital pedestrian billboards, and also have your book on display in whatever live event we may be part of in a given month. Learn all about that and more at readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page and scroll on down. Joining us right now from right outside our nation's capital in the beautiful state of Maryland. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut picture book. It's called The Streets of Ondo. Please welcome to the show, Evelyn Otulola Logan. Hey, Evelyn, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. Tell us all about The Streets of Ondo.
Oh, gosh. The Streets of Ondo is my debut picture book, and it really speaks to generational relationships and storytelling. It's how I grew up. I'm Nigerian American, so I spent my formative years in Nigeria, and there was it was filled with family atmosphere, so we were always around people telling different types of stories. And so in that same vein, when I wanted to write a book, I definitely wanted to write something where I felt like it was an opportunity to learn from, but also to share about how I actually grew up and how that has shaped my life as an adult today. Yeah. So On the Streets of Ondo it's just like that. It's a story. It's a generational storytelling where you have 3 friends who live in Ondo, Nigeria. And these 3 friends have heard from generation to generation this story about the Deruba man. And Deruba means scary in Yoruba, the language we speak in Nigeria. And so they heard this story, and the story is the Deruba man makes people disappear if they go out at night. So, right? And so these 3 friends, they brave it. They get out there and they said, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna try to find the Deruba man because we want to play it out. We want to play at night too, just like we do during the day. So they brave it. They hatch a plan and they go out there. And the question becomes, do they find the Deruba man? And if they do, what happens?
All right.
It's exactly what it's a fun story. It really is. It's a fun story for the family.
Well, through the magic of technology, I'm here in Boston, but I'm able to look and see Evelyn with me. And she has just such a glow about, as she is speaking about her book, there is so much joy radiating and So it's obvious that you love this book, that it has brought you so much joy, and that you expect that it's going to bring the same kind of joy to people and families who read it together.
Absolutely. And I love that. You said family. It really is a family book. It's a picture book. It's for ages 4 to 8. But when you really look at it, it's a family book. You could read it together, laugh together, pay attention to the traditions and the culture of Nigeria. Look at these kids and see similarities in your own kids. And for the children to see similarities too, there's a lot of messages in the book, and I'm sure we're going to dig into that a little bit later on. But it really is for the family.
Yeah. One of the things that I just wanted to mention, and I think it's interesting, you refer to yourself as Nigerian American, and most of us, we hear folks and they refer themselves as African American, and I know there's a lot of reasons why people who came here and are descendants of slaves don't necessarily know what part of Africa their ancestors might have come from. But I think when we hear that term African American and we hear Africa, a lot of people think of Africa as a country. I was like, it's all the same. And the reality is Africa is a really big and a really diverse continent.
Absolutely. I mean, Africa is a huge continent made up of various types of people with different traditions, different cultures, different backgrounds, different languages, even in one country. So Africa is a continent. And then, I'm from Nigeria, one of the countries in Africa. And so, there within our country, there are different tribes and different languages spoken and dialects and breakouts from the dialects and things of that nature. And so it really is diverse. But one of the things that I hope that radiates in the book is that it is also beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful continent, land with beautiful hills and water, bodies of water, all the things that we learn about geography and history. You could find that there in Africa, in Nigeria, in different parts of Africa.
Yeah, yeah. You were mentioning that your book, The Streets of Ondo, gives families a chance to see other cultures, to see kids of other cultures, to see how you're different, but also to see the things that we share. We've talked a lot about representation here on the podcast and how important it is for kids to see themselves represented and reflected on pages of books. I think it is equally important that books are windows and allow us to look and to see folks from different cultures, and more importantly, to see the things that we share, and to see that even though we look different, we eat different foods, we speak different languages, that we are all part of this beautiful human family, that we are all brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. The book talks a lot about tribe, and, I mentioned earlier generational storytelling and relationships. It's very evident in the book, how that shapes us, our great grandfathers and our grandfathers and our fathers and us, and then our children. And their children. And so the pieces of the storytelling is really important for that connection. And I just want to go back and say, representation is so important. It is so important. We are becoming very diverse, and technology has helped that. Globally, you could see different cultures, traditions, immersing in different other cultures and traditions. And not just Africa, but, in Europe and South America, Central America, Asia, just different places. And we have to represent that in the book, in our books, for our children as they start to grow. Ages 4 to 8, I didn't take it lightly when I started writing for that age group. Because it is very important what we're teaching them, and we need them to be able to embrace and understand that, when I go out in the world, I'm going to see someone who looks like this. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm seeing that through books and through reading, then I'm beginning to understand that, there are different people here, and we can all learn from each other. And so it really is powerful when you start to see a lot of the books that are coming out that are showing different, races, ethnicities, other kind of demographics or things of that nature that we don't usually share for many different reasons.
Yeah. It's so important, and it's a really powerful way for us to remind our kids that we get so afraid sometimes when we see somebody who's different, and we start to think of them as other. And it's really easy to dismiss somebody that we see as other. And instead, we need to start looking and seeing everybody as our brother.
Right.
Effort to rhyme, but
it's true. There's a lot of similarities. So, again, when you look at On the Streets of Ondo, they're children, right? And the similarity is in the emotion and the actions that the children take. They're brave. Kids, when they hear things like this, they want to be brave. And they want to find out about it. They're curious, their imagination is working. And similar to these kids who live in Ondo, Nigeria, their imagination is working. They too are wanting to be brave and courageous. They want to find out what this is all about. And I was making a joke the other day. I said, and I bet you, even though this was a story from generation to generation for them, that they actually believe they're the first people to go out there to go and look for the Deruba man, and just that whole personality, those characteristics, from when I lived in Nigeria to living here in America, those things are still the same, no matter where you go.
Yeah. And I like that this is you refer many times to it being an intergenerational experience for kids and for families. One thing we've talked about here on the podcast is, I haven't traveled extensively, but when I visit Latin countries, I see a lot more intergenerational things going on. It's a lot more likely to see a grandparent with a kid at a concert down in Panama or Puerto Rico than I am here in Boston. And I think that's a real sad. That's something that makes me sad, because I think our nation would be better served if we weren't as broken up. I think I remember the first time walking through a group of teenagers and thinking, wow, I'm invisible. They didn't see me at all. I just walked through these kids, and it was like I was in the wind. And I think that makes me sad.
Yeah, I think, there's so much, and, these are all my, perceptions, but, I think there's so much individuality being pushed, in many different societies across the world, that you end up, wanting to function in that way. And I do think that, when I look back in hindsight, I feel like the community part of how I grew up, the tribe, the group of folks, whether it's family or friends, just that from grandparents to someone's great grandparent to, your parent and yourself and your friends, all of that is what has shaped, who I am today. And I think I'm a pretty good person. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important. And I think, sometimes you see it's missing because there's so many other dynamics happening, in our society today, especially when it comes to our children, mm-hmm. And wanting to be able to provide for them and things of that nature. So you're really fighting a lot of different things happening there. But it's really important to me, and I think it should be really important to many people to want to continue those legacies, and to connect those stories and things that really make your family your family. Right. And it could be expansive. Your family can also include, for us, we're a big soccer family, so all of those parents and families, that are really, have responsibilities for my children when they're around them, and me too for their children. And so, it's really that village that you're creating. It could be as far as it going into Europe too and things of that nature. And so I think it's really important that we have that going, keep that going. And so that is really, you see the essence of that in the book, because there's a lot about family, friends, wanting to teamwork, wanting to work together to accomplish something, 3 friends doing that. And the end, when they get to the solution, they feel really good about themselves, and it took a village for them to get there. Yeah. And so I completely agree with you, Jed. It's a essential piece for us to keep moving on that community feeling.
Yeah. Tell me, what was it like moving from Nigeria to the United States?
So I was really young. I was 10, going on 11, or thereabouts. And, it was something that, I remember some, but it felt like I was going to somewhere great, the conversations around it, or the feelings as we were moving. And, honestly, we didn't move. It wasn't just us, my family, there was a group of us, a group of Nigerians who, wanted to come to America and really, look at what kind of opportunities were here for them and their children. So there was a group of us who came. So it felt fun. It felt exciting and things like that. Clearly, when I got here, there were some adjustments, some realities and things of that nature. And, I do talk about it a little bit. I've talked about it in other interviews, as it relates to just my first experience on the first day of school and how that has inspired, not only wanting to be a writer and really, wanting to understand the English language, but also, writing for children. And that story was that, I vaguely remember my first day of school, being teased, because of my accent. I was bilingual at that point. I spoke both English and Yoruba. And so, my accent was really strong. Back in Nigeria, it was common for girls to wear their hair like really short, like a boy. And I was teased for that. I was teased for being from Africa. And so it wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun experience, but it was an experience that pushed me to, not only want to get better with the English language, so I didn't look at it as like, my life is over. People don't like me at school. And, everybody takes things differently. And I attribute that, though, to the small Nigerian community that we had built in Florida when we first moved to America. And that family made sure that, we remember where we came from, who we were, what our purpose was. Education is huge in the Nigerian community. Especially in Ondo, where my mom is from, and so, that was the focus, and so you stay steadfast and you made friends where you could, until now. I'm sure you're listening to me saying she has no accent.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's exciting as I'm sitting and I'm listening to you talk about the streets of Ondo, and I'm thinking, a lot of parents complain, oh, my kid wants me to read this book for the 500th time. And it's like, you don't have to read it the same way. You can read it in different ways. And I'm thinking one of the neat things about this, because Ondo is a real place that exists in Africa, it would be really neat to read the book and then one day, after one reading, get on Google Earth or whatever and take a trip to Ondo. And to see and see what the streets are like and see, photographs instead of just the illustrations, and learn a little bit more about the city, and just, talk to our kids about, wow, here we are in Silver Spring, or here we are in Boston or Texas, and where is Ondo in relationship to that, and just to help them become more familiar with the world and understand that they are part of this really beautiful world, this really beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm hoping that this book is a springboard for kids to want to learn more about the world. And the world, it can expand to, Ondo, Nigeria, but it could also expand to, Phoenix, Arizona, if you're from New York, because even within, the United States, and having been to different states across the states, there's a lot of differences as well, cultural differences, you could say. And so I think that when you start to see that there are other things out there, exploring, becoming that adventurer, getting your map out, and saying, I'm just going to point on this map and start learning about that country and what they do there and what they don't do there. I think it's amazing. It would be an amazing experience to see children who are doing that now, 10, 20 years from now, what they're doing.
Yeah, you talked about, taking out the map, and for some of you who don't know what a map is, it's a piece of paper with, use it to get around. But anyway, my beautiful wife did that one year. She just kind of spun the globe in her classroom, and she closed her eyes, and we were trying to decide where we were going to go. And her finger landed on Panama. And we took a trip to the beautiful nation of Panama. And when we were going down there, we're telling people we're going, and people go, why? And I said, because that's where my wife's finger landed on the globe. And we had a great time. We made friends. It was a great... And what a great weekly activity that could be for a family. Take out that globe or that map and just spin it. And so where are we going to go? We're going to go to the library and find a book by an author from that country, or a book about that country, and look at stuff online. And that could be a really, really fun experience.
And one of the things that I've been getting, I actually went to an event this past weekend. I met some children who started saying, you know what? Oh my gosh, as they're looking at the book, and the character's name, they have Yoruba Nigerian names. So Kemi, Femi, and Tinu are the three main characters in the book. And one kid said, oh my gosh, I have a Femi in my class.
Oh, neat.
Isn't that nice? And it's, that connection that, oh, now I know Femi's Nigerian too, more than likely Nigerian, I mean, other people can and will name their children, African or Nigerian names, but, more than likely maybe Femi's Nigerian. And now I'm connecting, that story to that culture, that background.
Yeah. So neat.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, since Ondo is a place that exists and it's filled with people, have you had a chance to share the book with anybody in Ondo, and what was their reaction if you did?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Ondo is actually where my mom's from. That's her tribe. My mom is born, raised in Ondo. And my dad's village is probably about 3 or 4 hours away from where my mom's from. So I've been to Ondo, very young though, very young. I've not been back to Nigeria since I've been here, so it's been a very long time. But my cousins still live nearby. My aunts, my uncles, my mom's side of the family. My dad lives in Nigeria for the most part. So I definitely had family who's looked at the book. And then my mom, I couldn't get the first print in, and she's like, you better send this to me. She's in Florida. And so she said, you better send this to me. So I had to express it to her so that she could get her copy right away, because it is her town, and they just love it, They think it's a really great story. One of the things that we continuously talk about is how it's a great first introduction to Africa. Many kids don't even know that that's a continent between the ages of 4 to 8. And so for them to start to see that is something somewhere, is such a big piece. And the positivity of it too, the beauty of the land, the innocence of the children, wanting to go out. Just like here, we have different stories here with the boogeyman or Bigfoot or something of that nature. And generations are hearing that this is a story and a thing, you got to look for it. These kids are in that same scenario, in that same environment, that storytelling, component of it that gets passed down from generation to generation. So I feel like I'm going off tangent a little bit here because I'm so passionate about what we're sharing here, about the information. Oh yes. So they love it. My mom is extremely excited. I think she's trying, we talk every day anyways, but I think she's trying to contain it to just once a day, because she's so excited about the story itself. And I have to tell you, this is not the only adventure that our three friends go on. So it's a series. There, I've heard many stories growing up, and even though this story about the Deruba man, it was inspired from stories I heard, the next book, it's actually a story we heard growing up. So that's going to be fun to share that. And I'm not gonna give too much away, but it's gonna make a splash.
All right, okay, all right. Get the imagination's going. So we don't want you to give anything about the next book away, but we do want you to tell us all where we can go to find out more about the Streets of Ondo and find out more about you.
Great. So the best place to find out about me right now is on my website, EvelynLoganWrites.com. All of my information is on there, events, where I'll be, school visits, doing interviews and things of that nature. I'm on social media. I really try to engage in that way, even though I like to go out and explore. I think it really helps with my creativity and writing. But I am on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Evelyn Logan Writes. I am on Twitter at Evelyn Logan Writes, but with the Writes doesn't have the vowels in there. So WRTS, Evelyn Logan WRTS on there. And those are the places that I'm at right now.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Streets of Ondo, brand new debut picture book from our guest, Evelyn Logan. Hey, Evelyn, thanks for spending time with us this morning.
Jess, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Barbara Tibbetts. Barbara is the author and driving force behind the Lookbook Scavenger Hunt series. She has a brand new title in the series. It's called Nature Walk. You don't want to miss it. What a great, totally interactive way to get your kids out into nature. Hey, we want to invite you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on TikTok, at Reading With Your Kids on Pinterest, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. You also please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can sign up for our free newsletter. You can click on the Parents Click Here button to go to our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, read our blog. And you can also use the contact button at the top of the page to let us know what we're doing well, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading With Your Kids podcast. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Evelyn Logan. Please be sure to check out The Streets of Ondo. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Bell Castro, Ashley Contreras, Mirabella Q, Rain Penn. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.